Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Dan, and today on Techdriven's news show, we are talking about Cyberpunk's finally released its specs for what you need to run it, not the game, and that's apparently the 10th. We'll see. NVIDIA talks a little bit about availability for the RTX 3000 series. The 6800 XT breaks the FireStike world record, which is awesome. The 6800s came out this week, so I'll quickly talk about a bit about that and how the launch went here in Canada and Ontario, as well as ASRock is the first ones to come out with the BIOS update for B550 and X470 motherboards. And Microsoft is looking at bringing Teams to the non-enterprise, to regular consumers. It's very interesting. So stick around. So let's start off with Cyberpunk 2077. Super highly anticipated game. I've personally been super excited for it, ever since a while now. But finally, NVIDIA and Cyberpunk have shown off the what you need to run the game with ray tracing on and with ray tracing off. So I'm going to be the department of ray tracing off, as I don't have an RT card, either a 6800 XT or a RTX 3000 series or 2000 series video card. But overall, it looks like it's not that bad. Now, personally, currently, I run a 1440p monitor, and if we put that into perspective, looking at their high specs for 1440p, graphics settings set to ultra, it looks like all you need is a i7 4790 or a Ryzen 3 3200G for your CPU, 12 gigabytes of system memory, it's not too bad, an RTX 2060, so that's not a crazy high-end card, good middle of the range card, and a Radeon RX 5700 XT, that's a really solid performer, with only about 6 gigs of VRAM is required and 70 gigs of storage, and they recommend it to be on an SSD. From what I've read, it looks like the game's going to have a very much GTA style, so it's going to be very open. Everything's kind of already loaded, so I would assume when you first get into the game, it's going to have a decent load time. But moving up to Ultra, which is 2160p, basically the specs are the same. When it comes to CPU, Ryzen, they step up the CPU for Ryzen up to a 3600, 16 gigs of VRAM from 16 gigs of system RAM from 12, and they recommend a 6800 XT, a 3070, or a 2080S, and the rest are the same. And now, if we go over to the RT side, if you want to turn on all the ray tracing features in 4K, so RT on Ultra, you need an i7 6700, a Ryzen 5 3600. So that just goes to show the Ryzen 5 3600 is a solid buy for anyone that's looking to build a machine or upgrade their current Ryzen system. It's the kind of looks like the recommended CPU. It performs really well. It has good IPC. It's not too expensive, and I really hope they. And it looks like the 5900X is going to be. the 5600X is going to be that really good replacement. But I hope they come out with a non-X at a lower price point, being the proper replacement for that. But anyways, as I digress, 16 gigs of VRAM as well, and they are recommending a 3080. So if you are of the 1%ers that have the 3090 or maybe a 6900 XT, you probably could be able to play this on Ultra in RT. But again, AMD's ray tracing performance isn't nearly as good as NVIDIA's, NVIDIA's already on their second generation, and it's much better. But still, overall, this looks like it's gonna be very playable. Now, they don't say what the frame rates you should expect. I'm assuming it's going to be more than 30 FPS for these system requirements. I really hope. But I guess we'll find out on December 10th. And they don't put a year. So is it December 10th of 2020 or December 10th of 2077 when the game comes out? Who knows? So moving on, as this week we had lots of benchmarks showing up and showing overall performance of the cards, and you can see that the 3080 and the 6800 XT trade blows, but overall 3080 is a little bit faster of a card. Has better ray tracing performance and a little better in production workloads. But AMD did a fantastic job at catching up and really bringing competition to NVIDIA's door at the high end. And I'm super happy about that. And literally everything that AMD kind of showed is what came to real life. Now, there might still be some teething with drivers and optimization initially, but as we saw with the 5700 XT, AMD was able to iron those out. So hopefully quickly, AMD will iron those out. Cards will start hitting store shelves as stock in Canada was very, very limited. Like Memory Express said, even before it launched, they said, guys, we have none. So don't even bother coming. Don't even bother flooding our website. We don't have any. And I was like, shit, that kind of sucks because Memory Express is just down the street from me. And Canada Computers had none. Newegg.ca had none. Amazon.ca had none. So, and there's a couple local Facebook computer groups I'm on, and people were asking, like, hey, did anyone even get any here in Canada? And no one said they did. And I think the only people that got them were reviewers. So, and Canadian reviewers at that. There might be a few people that did actually get them, but I think the numbers were very small. So let's move on to some interesting world records that happened this week. The 6800 actually beat out a 3090 in FireStike. So FireStike is a 3D Mark benchmark, and it actually beat it out on the stock cooler. No LN2, no water blocks, stock cooler. So the CPU was on LN2, and it was a 5950X, being it the fastest gaming CPU right now. It was overclocked to 5.4 gigahertz and on LN2. But the 68, geez, these numbers. The 6800X was on the stock cooler, and it beat out the 3090. So that was pretty awesome. Looking at these scores, it scored a 47,932 points, edging out a Asus ROG Strix OC Edition RTX Gaming 3090. And apparently its cooling was LN2. Are you... Wow! Oh man, that's funny. And it only scored 47,727 points. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Oh man, getting beaten by a card that's half the price? Ouch. Anyways, that's always fun, but I bet, you know, someone's gonna come back and beat the 6800. Maybe a 6900 will beat it. But that just goes to show 6800 XT is a solid overclocker. The stock cooler is actually decent, and from reviewers that I've read, it actually is a quieter cooler than the 3080, so that's really cool. No pun intended. But super happy with the 6800 launch, besides availability, but this year's been kind of all over the place with availability anyways. So yeah, it's good to see competition again. I am so happy. So EVGA and Kingpin are two basically the NVIDIA giants when it comes to the best top performing NVIDIA graphics cards. If you want the ultimate insane cooler and also the ultimate in overclocking and binned GPU with the best power delivery, best memory, best bin GPU as I just said, and the best cooling, well, Kingpin cards are the ones to buy, except for all of that best. These cards are, well, money isn't the object. They're $2,000 for an RTX 3090 Kingpin. It's insane. But this features a 12-layer PCB, a 23-phase power stage, 3 BIOSes on it, a 360mm AIO cooler for it, with also its own cold plate and a fan cooling the VRMs and everything on the card. It has a little readout on it. It's an absolutely insane card. Now, this card, there's really no point of really mentioning the clocks and all that, because you're going to buy this card, you're going to crank it even further. So this is really designed to hardcore overclockers, hardcore enthusiasts, the 3090 Kingpin edition. So the Kingpin cards have always been really unique and interesting. I'd love to own a couple. They are hard to come by, and they are very expensive, and they are kind of collector's items within the graphics card world. But as today, EVGA kind of had a stream with Jay's 2 Cents and Gamers Nexus, overclocking them with Vince, aka Kingpin, guiding them along, and they were raising money for charity. And that was really cool to watch, to see them push the cards first on the IOs and then on LN2, which these cards are really designed for. So they got over 17,000 points on Port Royal. I think they were touching 5th place on the overall Port Royal leaderboard of a single card when I stopped watching to start filming. But really, really cool cards. If you are into that crazy stuff, well, you already know about it. So if you're a current Ryzen user and you have an older B550 X470 motherboard and you want to jump on the Ryzen 5000 bus, well, you've been kind of SOL because the BIOS currently do not support those new chips, and you're waiting for your motherboard vendor to add the support to the current motherboard. Now, Asus and a few other vendors said they're going to add the support. Expect it to, for the early little bit of 2021, so January, February time, and that's kind of what Asus said, and I think MSI as well. But it looks like ASRock is the first ones to have that support. Now, this is a beta BIOS. It's not a full release, so you may want to wait a bit, but if it is a secondary system, it might be worth checking out and playing with it if you got your hands on a Ryzen 5000 chip. So this is just specifically for the B550 boards and the boards that are supported. Oof, that's a big list. So I'm going to probably put a screenshot of that. I'm not going to read them off, but it looks like there's a good list of B550 boards. Now, no X470 boards, but I know the B550 boards are fairly popular because they are well priced and they feature pretty much all the features you need for most builds, and X470 is a little, the difference is the average person doesn't need it. So, but that's really good to see. So now, for anyone that has a B550 ASRock motherboard, you can run Ryzen 5000. So graphics card shortage, and it's not even graphics card shortage, but it's also CPU shortages and console shortages have really been plaguing. And even then, it's outside of the tech world. 2020 hasn't been too kind for stock. People have been kind of going crazy and buying in bulk or buying whatever's available and then reselling and scalping people. It's been kind of a crazy year. So NVIDIA said that, don't expect stock to get much better until about 2021 for the RTX 3000 series cards. And then I even read an article about, and I can't remember where the source was, I lost it, but there was also an article that said the same thing for the consoles. I think Sony said that, and it's probably going to apply the same for Microsoft with the Xbox, as well as AMD with their RX 6800 series and 6900 series of video cards, and as well as probably the Ryzen chips as well. When I was recently at my local computer store, I asked them, hey, are cards coming in? Are you guys even getting any? And they said, yeah, we're getting cards, but they are coming in. It's best to place the card on back order, and you'll be basically placed in line, and when it shows up, you'll get it. But they, again, don't know how many they're getting at a time, so you may be waiting a week, maybe 2 weeks. But he said they are coming in. So that's really interesting. But it really sucks if you need an upgrade or want an upgrade. So that is kind of unfortunate. Coming into the holiday season, people will be buying new consoles or other hardware for either for themselves or for someone as a gift. And availability is going to be very tight. And funny enough, this week, the Toronto police announced that, said that people are getting robbed when they are selling their PS5s on, like, say, Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, or whatever used marketplace, and they meet up at a local Tim Hortons, a coffee shop, whatever, and people are getting mugged and robbed of their PlayStation. It's a good way to stick it out to the scalpers, but come on, guys. It's a bit violent. That's not cool. So please stay safe out there and don't scalp. Maybe that should be a lesson to them. So Teams is coming to the consumer space. Now, if you are pretty much work anywhere or a company that uses Office 365, you have access to Teams. Well, if you bought a Office Premium, at least a 365 Premium subscription. But anyways, let's not dive too deep into that. But you should be familiar with Teams. Teams is also an alternative to, first was a replacement for Skype for Business, which sucked, and it's an alternative to Slack, which is another corporate messaging app, and it's good for hosting calls and video calls and also other presentations. It's also kind of a competitor to Zoom and WebEx, which I both don't like, and I have my reasons, but I like Teams a lot. I've used it since launch, and I think it's a great app. It does have its downfalls. It's not perfect, but they are now bringing Teams to the consumer space, which is fantastic. So just before our December holidays for everyone, or Christmas, this is gonna be great. So you can have group chats up to 250 people, calls up to 24 hours. You'll be able to. It's gonna be free, which is interesting. So the rebirth of MSN Messenger. maybe like that'd be cool. But yeah, it looks like so you're gonna be able to access from iOS, Android, and your browser on your PC, and you can get Teams. And it doesn't look like there's a price based on the article I have below. It's going to be free. Awesome. Go Microsoft. Cool. I'm actually pretty excited. I like Teams a lot. It's going to be good. It's going to be a good way to connect with friends and family, especially as everyone's social distancing. And certain cities and countries are going back under a second lockdown, unfortunately, because of this human malware. So good guy, Microsoft. All right, so that's going to wrap up this week's show. Be sure to check out the next video I'm going to post probably a couple days later. I just need to put it together. It's going to be dealing with these computer parts. I teased it on our Facebook page. I'm building an all RGB, all AMD. No, wait. No RGB, all AMD, no tempered glass build. So fairly cool build. And the whole goal of that PC was what can you build this week, what's in stock, and what can I get? So that made it really interesting, and it really opened my eyes of what actually was available and what has been discontinued. And I'll talk about that in the build, in the video coming up. But basically, forget about RTX 2000, forget about RTX 3000 or RX 6800 that just don't exist on the market, and the only option was 5700 XT. But still, flippin' awesome computer build, and overall, really solid. So I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and we'll see you in the next one.